Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome to the breakdown. It is not a Sunday. It is the day after Boxing Day. Hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, football aside, because let's be honest, the football was dire. But hopefully you all had a good time with your friends, your family, the rest of it. That's what it's about at the end of the day. I've got a bit of sticking up here, and it's not wanting to go. But there we go. Just go for the old spiky look. Look, there's lots for us to discuss, and as is tradition on the breakdown, we will give opinions, we will talk, and we will get to the questions and the people in the chat. Please give everything a share, all that sort of stuff. There's a rumours of flying this afternoon, and there is stuff happening. It is never boring, but let's start with the football, which was absolutely, look, it was poor. Real poor. There was a handful, if that, of players who deserve any credit remotely. I thought the attitude was stinking, the work rate was stinking, the quality was even worse. And Cardiff City got a big problem because in order to stay up in a relegation battle, you need leaders, you need people who are going to fight for the badge. And unfortunately, a large percentage of this playing squad look like they could not give two shits. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about the club. Because ultimately, right, if Cardiff City, let's say, worst case scenario, right, Cardiff City go down, worst case scenario, we go bust, whatever, like long term, those players will go play for someone else. The hierarchy will go and do whatever they do elsewhere. And it'll be the fans who are picking up the pieces to either try and keep the club going or to bring the club back from the ashes and the aftermath of what the all of those people have done to our football club. And it is one of those things, right, where I understand that people think like the protests is this or that or shouldn't, but ultimately I think what you've got to think about is, number one, as Cardiff City fans, I think we can all agree we've had enough of the toxic way and the terrible neglectful way that the football club is being run off the pitch, on the pitch, all of it together. And I think if you want to call it a protest or a march, whatever, before the Swansea game can unite the fan base and remind people that they are the lifeblood of the football club. They are the ones who keep that football club going. That's a good thing. And I think ultimately some of these players need reminding that the fans pay their wages. So, if they've had some criticisms about their performances, it was probably warranted because they've been garbage. And I think on the whole, as fans, we will accept poor quality if the effort is there, the energy, the work rate. If they're working for the badge, but they get beaten by a better team, so be it. We'll all go down together and we'll all go down united, fans and players alike. But when you look at it, and out of the, 13, 14 players who played, 15 players who played yesterday, you could probably name on one hand the people who put in acceptable performances in terms of their attitude, their work rate, their desire to work for the badge. Simply not good enough. And in no way is that a team which looks like staying up, which pains me to say. I was so excited and so positive about this season. I thought we had some really good players. But unfortunately, as those of you who've watched me and Rhodri before, we've talked about at length, many occasions, one bad apple or one negative person in a dressing room, it spreads like a wildfire. You got a few, it's almost impossible to get that united. And what I will say is there's a few guys in that dressing room who are doing absolutely everything that they can to unite the players, to get the standards to where they should be, calling out unacceptable attitudes, behaviours, work rate, efforts, whatever it may be. There is a group of guys in there who are doing that, and they're trying everything. Now, will it be enough? Well, is the manager experienced enough? These are all questions which are going to be asked. But ultimately, I think a large portion of these players really should have a look in the mirror. Because regardless of whether you think the system's good or bad, regardless of whether you think Omar Rhys is underqualified or he's a rookie or he's not good enough or whatever, he's too friendly with the players, whatever your opinion is on that, as players, that 25-man players, whatever, plus youth players, they should all, at the very least, have professional pride to do their very best week in, week out, and not want to get relegated with a team on paper that is too good to be relegated. But as we all know as football fans, you're never too good to be relegated. Doesn't matter who you've got. And it's a problem. And I don't know where we kind of go at the moment, because I said openly the day that Omar Rhys was, I think it was either the day or the day after, whenever I did the show, and I said openly that Omar Rhys was being set up to fail, and he was being set up to be the scapegoat. Now, can you tell me any different? He wasn't given the appropriate support staff. He wasn't appointed when he was on a bit of a run and had a bit of momentum, and we were left in this kind of, he was left in this just sort of hanging, not knowing what was happening. The players the same. And now things have continued to get bad, if not worse. He's going to be the one who takes the brunt of it. There was some chance yesterday, like, you're going to get sacked in the morning and stuff like that. And I get it, some of us maybe a bit of jest and a bit of banter, because if you can't laugh, you'll probably cry. But he's been set up to fail. Too many of these players do not give a shit. Too many of these players think they're doing the fans a favour, and they think that the fans have no right to criticise them or to call them out, or the fans should just support them, whatever. Well, I tell you what, you start putting 100% in, and I guarantee you the fans will be right behind you. Disgraceful. Absolute disgraceful. Look, I know there's rumours today of Summer Man being in Cardiff and stuff like that. I'm not really going to talk about that, because I don't want to be someone who focuses on like rumours and innuendo and stuff like that, because there's nothing concrete that we know, so we can't really discuss it. I'm not sure what it's all about and stuff, but you know, at the end of the day, like, we just all want what's best for Cardiff City, and I think as fans, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. I see these players, and just too many of them do not look interested. Too many of them, like, coming out with 50-50s, not doing their individual jobs. Like, where's the professional pride in just, I'm the centre-back, the goalkeeper, the whatever, midfielder, and I'm not necessarily saying those, but I'm just saying, that's my position. This is my job. No one is going to beat me in a duel. No one is going to beat me in a tackle. No one's going to beat me to the ball. No one is going to, I'm not going to switch off and let someone else get a shot off, or my player's not going to get lost. There's no professional pride. The only players I exclude from it is the kind of homegrown players, Robertson and probably O'Dowda. I think the rest are open to criticism, rightly so. I thought Ronan Capaccio again was very good. I thought Ruben was decent. At least he tried. I thought Ronan Capaccio. Sorry, say him. I thought Kean Ashford did a good job, and I really hope that they don't send Kean out on loan. I hope they play. I hope they play him, because honestly, right, I had a conversation with a friend of mine last night, and I said the way that these guys are performing, and remember, this is for a manager who they wanted, you know, give Rhys the job, give Rhys it, fuck off. Seriously, like, because they've looked less interested under him since he got the job. You need a motivator. You need a manager who's going to get the best out of them, of course. But individually and collectively, they've got to take responsibility. So I said to my mate last night, I said, do you know what I would do now? Between now and January the 1st, when the window opens, Alnwick I'd probably keep in, just because I don't really think Howard's the answer. But Jack Alnwick is probably open for some criticism in recent performances, to be honest. But I play the youngsters. I play the youngsters with a couple of slightly more experienced players dotted around. Robertson for O'Dowd keep their places for me. And I play the youngsters. There's a few youngsters who are on fire form-wise. And ultimately, right, one, it can't be any worse. And two, if the young players are playing, the fans will get behind that. The fans will give them patience and the fans will unite, because the fans are fed up of overpaid footballers who don't give two shits about that Bluebird badge and two shits about the fans. Like, how many weeks in a row has it pretty much been like Callum O'Dowd and the homegrown players thanking the fans? So for me, I would get the youngsters in there. And then in January, I would be trying to get in. So I slightly changed now. Like probably about a month ago, I said we need a striker, we need a pacey winger, and I think we'll be all right then. I actually think now we still need those things. We need a bit of pace in the attacking third, and we need a striker. But I think for the striker, and I think a central midfielder, we need championship experience. But most of all, we need a personality which is going to dig in, get stuck in, motivate the team, and not give anybody on that pitch or in that squad who's not putting the effort in, he's going to tell them. I look back at certain teams when they've been in relegation battles. Sean Derry is someone who springs to mind. Sean Morrison, leaders, but guys who won't accept. If you're going to get relegated, you go down fighting. You don't go down with a whimper, which is what Cardiff City are doing. The rate that Cardiff are going at the moment, we will literally be bottom of the league, and even Plymouth and Wayne Rooney will finish above us, because the attitude is so toxic and so negative and so poor. And I know the players had a meeting last night, and they had I'm sure harsh words were exchanged, but ultimately, if you're more interested in checking your phone when things are being coached or a manager or training, then you're not really interested, are you? Let's be honest. It's very poor. Let's go to some of the comments. Nice little 30 minutes of me ranting. Evan says, Evan, the Patreon says, at this point, I've accepted we're going down. We've come close so many times, but this year is it, I feel. Respect to Callum O'Dowd and a few others for apologising after the game, but this can't continue. How many times, mate, does him and those couple of others have to keep apologising? Because let's be honest, Callum O'Dowd probably isn't the one who should be apologising. Evan also says, what we need now is a manager like Warnock who's not afraid to scream at the team and to get their act together. A basketball coach myself, as a basketball coach myself, shouting at the players isn't always about punishing, it's about passion. Well, this is the problem. It's the lack of passion. And look, as I said before, Omar Rhys is effectively the scapegoat for it. It's not on him, but he is there now. And even he's very passive, he seems real passive the way he sort of stood there. But then I've also heard from a couple of Oxford fans who were by the dugout who said he was screaming instructions on to the players, and half of them just blanked him, which is exactly what they did to Errol Bullock. If you remember, in the Leeds game, when I sat right behind the Leeds dugout, and I said that he was telling people to do stuff, and they were either blanking him or just giving it that. And this is what we've got. This is what is expecting to keep us up. That attitude. Now, regardless of whether you agree with the manager, it's not for you to decide to make that point when you're on the pitch. If he tells you to do something, you do it because he's your boss. You play for Cardiff City. You play for that badge. So even if you don't agree with what he's telling you to do tactically, you do it, and then you, behind closed doors, you discuss it and you say why you didn't think it was a good idea or this or that. You don't give a bad attitude. You don't blank him. You don't. It's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. It's lack of respect for Omar Rhys, lack of respect for Cardiff City, and lack of respect for those travelling fans who on their Boxing Day yet again followed the club up the country, and away they go. And this is the problem, isn't it? It's the lack of respect for the fans who don't get paid as much as what these guys get paid. But yeah, they follow them around. They go to all the games. Because let's make no mistake, at the moment, it's only the hardcore really who are going to games. The rest have had enough and stopped. So I think some of these players need a bit of a reality check. Some of these players, I don't know, they believe their own hype, or do they just not care about Cardiff City enough? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but it's very, very, very poor. John Watkins says none of the summer signings have really worked. Add the injuries, and we have relegation look inside. Trying to think. I don't understand. So in my opinion, from what I've seen, Darland is potentially our best centre back. However, he's come into a new league. He started really well, got injured, and then he's come back. So he's in a new country, new league. He's a bit behind. He hasn't found the speed and the tempo of the Championship. He had one bad game and he's dropped. Now, I quite like Joel Bagan as one of the three centre-backs, and having a left footer there on the left-hand side, I quite like that. But, how many bad games has Callum Chambers had? Gutas has had a couple recently. It seems like certain players get a bit more protection than others. I think Alex Robertson has been decent. I think he would be better if we had a better partner for him in the middle of midfield. But I think he's been decent. Willock, glimpses, but nothing special really. Obviously, Kanga has not worked out whatsoever, which is frustrating because he was the one that we were kind of banking on to score the goals, which hasn't worked. So I kind of agree with you, John, but don't as well. If you got me, I think Alex Robertson has worked to a certain degree. I think Darland could work, but for whatever reason, he never seems to get a run in the team. And obviously, Will Fish, does he exist? Is the question we should be asking at this point. Nadale Clowin Sai, says Tommy T. Unfortunately, I'm not fluent in Welsh, mate. I can kind of make out what you're saying to a certain degree, but not fluently, mate. Sorry. Paul says, hope you had a good Christmas, Sai. We get let down again. There's no belief in the side now. If we get out of this, I'll be amazed. It's tough to watch, and I don't see it getting better. Well, do you know, mate, I did have a good Christmas. Thank you very much for saying so or asking. Here's my thing, right? Is you look at the way Kanga, Bagan, Robertson, O'Dowda, Colwell, and Ashford played. They played like they cared. So, against Watford on Sunday, do we go with Kepakio as your right wing back? Do you go with Kean Ashford as either the striker or the one off the striker? Do you go, do you get these Thomas Davis in there? Do you get Louis Giles in there? Do you get a couple of those young strikers who are doing really, Manny Barton's on fire in the 23s? Do you get him on the bench to try and get something? I'm not sure what's going on with Reindorf, if he's got a knock, but if he hasn't got a knock, do you get him in there? Ultimately, all right, they might not be ready for regular first team football, but you know what they will do against Watford is they will battle. They will play for the badge. They will give energy, and they will try which is more than I can say for some of these players. And they haven't got the for lack of a better term, they haven't got the trauma of this season so far in terms of the bad performances, the shit off the fans, they haven't got all that negativity in them. They've actually been having quite a good season in the 23s, playing well, winning games. I think they're top of the league. They're doing well in the cup competition. So maybe if they come in, they can play with a bit of verve and a bit of quality and a bit of move the ball quickly, and they can have a bit of confidence and a bit of belief. Stick a couple of experienced players in the important areas. Maybe that's the answer, because like we talked about before, you've got Simic, who we sent out on loan after signing him, who was 21. Sunderland wanted him for their first team squad. A lot of the teams who are playing at the top of the league, their squads are much, much younger than what ours are. So it's really, really interesting to see, do we stick with these players who are not performing, or do we go with those young players with a little bit of experience with them, because at least they'll give 100%. It shouldn't be that. We shouldn't have to do that. But as I've said many times, can it get worse? Sorry, I'm just messaging my wife to ask her to come and get my cats, because they are fighting over there. I don't know if you can hear them. But there, it is what it is. Let's have a look at some of these other comments. John says the players can only give the quality they have, but all can give effort, so there's no excuse for a lack of that. Yeah, that's 100%, mate, what I'm saying. Fact Steve says Stoke sacked their manager today. And you know what, mate? I bet you they sacked him with a plan as well. Just like Oxford did. They sacked Des Buckingham, who's a very popular manager, and they had Gary Rowett ready to go, because they had, you don't sack a manager if you don't know what you're going to do. Well, you don't do that if you're a decently run football club. You have a plan in place. But there we go. El Raccasinio says a load of those players are on their last year of the contracts. They couldn't care less about the shirt. All the nonsense off the pitch is well and truly filtered onto the pitch. 100%, mate. The way the football clubs run is kind of, the way I always kind of look at it is, the team has been going down for a few years, and off the field has been going down quicker, and they're kind of just meeting now in the middle, and it's just making for an absolute shit show. Look, I understand. I said the other day that, some of those players who are out of contract, how interested are they in it? Do they know that they're not wanted by Cardiff? So how much are they going to care? They can talk to other clubs in literally a few days, as well as and then a few people said, well, no one's going to want them, or they're not going to get a big payday because of how badly they've played this year. But they will, on a free transfer, they'll still get a nice signing on bonus, and they'll still, get a wage and stuff like that, because they'll get rewarded for their new clubs not having to pay a transfer fee. But it's just another symptom of the absolute terrible way the football clubs run. And you're right, it's just now filtered completely onto the pitch. And it's very difficult to see how we're going to get out of it, because I can't see how these players fight enough to keep us up. A relegation battle is brutal, especially in the Championship. It's week in, week out, sometimes 2-3 times a week, and you have to fight for every throw in, every tackle, everything, and just to get a point sometimes, just to squeeze a point, just to get 3 points against the run of play. Can you see some of these guys doing that? They just don't look interested. They don't look interested. Jonathan says, even good players need to put effort in. These players have no confidence, no determination, and no pride and no effort. It's an absolute joke. Rhys has been hung out to dry by the board, and the players now too. Yeah, mate, what did I say the day he got appointed? These players now got to show up for him. They were out in the public saying, Rhys is the man, give him the job. So they had to come and show up for him now and show that why they wanted him. But I think it seems at the moment like they just wanted him because he'd give them an easy ride. Like, he wouldn't be giving them a bit of that grief, and he wouldn't be on them to improve their standards every single day in training. And he wants to be their friend, and he's trying to, look, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and sometimes players need an arm around them. But this nicey approach, I don't think is working. I think that's safe to say. But is that why they wanted them? Because they felt like they would get a bit more of an easy ride? Don't know. Paul says, we have to admit we aren't good enough. 22 games played, and we've only turned up and played about 5 times. Rest of the games have been abysmal. Yeah, we scored 20 goals, mate. Outrageous. Fact Steve says, Sam's not the answer. He's the past, not the future. Rhys says, I hope you had a nice Christmas. I did, mate. Thank you very much. Vincent says, pick the best we've got, mix it up with youngsters and experience. That's all we can do. Yeah, I just think, like, ultimately, the young players are going to give more effort and more, like, they will play for that badge. They will play with pride, and they will, because they want to make an impression as well. You know, they're just starting out their men's football careers. They want to make an impression. So if nothing else, they will give 100%. And, you know, we always hear about how much talent we've got there. Well, maybe now's the time to use it, because at the end of the season, when it's really, really, really pressure's on, if we're still in a relegation battle, then you're not going to chuck the youngsters in then. Whereas if they've been playing since now till then, they've got a bit of experience and momentum, and maybe then it's not so bad. And one thing it will do is the fans will get behind the young players because they haven't been let down by them, and they understand the need for patience from them. Aaron says O'Dowda for captain, leads well on and off the pitch. Could be a shout, mate, next year, depending on what happens with Joe Rose and stuff like that. Jonathan says we got the 7th highest wage bill for this, mind. I think they should all start having performance-based income, and maybe they'd have a reason to play and train because they're not earning their crust right now. Yeah, mate, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you've got fans travelling up to Oxford on Boxing Day in a cost of living crisis. And I guarantee you that, you know, some of those fans are not anywhere near, you know, they probably don't even earn in a year what some of these players get in a week. And they can't even run around and give 100%. Embarrassing. They should be ashamed of themselves just on that fact, like, that they cannot just put the effort in. Give 100%. That's all that Cardiff City fans want. Give 100%, and then go clap the away fans and say thanks for coming. That's all we want. Don't think that's asking much. Paul says, how many meetings can this lot have? Put a fan in front of them with a hairdryer treatment. O'Dowda for captain? ? I'm not one for. I do think having a goalkeeper, not necessarily because Jack Alnwick's done anything wrong. I don't really like having a keeper as a captain. I'd rather it be an outfield player. So obviously, if Joe Rose isn't playing, I think O'Dowda's a good shout. So yeah, Boxing Day is always painful, isn't it? Fact Steve says, I have wondered if the current contract situation where 13 are out of contact in the summer is partly to blame for the current poor performance. I mean, it probably doesn't help. But, like, also, surely, like, this is their opportunity to earn a new contract, isn't it? Because, let's be honest, if those players are brutally honest with themselves, right, the way Cardiff City has been for the last 2 or 3 years, how many of those players can look in the mirror and say, I definitely 100% deserve a new contract, or I definitely 100% deserve to retain my wage as it is, let alone have a pay rise? Like, how many of those 13 players can look in the mirror and honestly say that? Like, I'm not sure, mate, you know, but it probably doesn't help. If not, like, at the very least, it doesn't help. But it's just another symptom, as I say. Always away, Boxing Day. Paul says, have those 13 earned a contract? No. O'Dowda, yes. Yeah, O'Dowda getting a bit of love, and rightly so. Fact Steve says, I would say most of the 13 wouldn't earn a new deal. Yeah, well, I think we went through it the other day. And like most of them was like, nah, not really. I think this squad needs revitalizing in terms of, we said at the start of the season and the end of last season, we were quite an old squad. We lacked pace and athleticism and technical ability. And there's one or two who don't fall in that category, but generally, as a general sort of average in the squad. Evening, Alex. Paul says, in all honesty, so I had to play those you mentioned, even Barton and more. I'd play your cat too. He seems pissed off. Yeah, he is, mate. They were just, well, two of them were just fighting now. One of them's a jack. No, I'm joking. There's an old blue. Phil Jones says, too many players in our club not really playing for the shirt. No leaders anywhere on the pitch. A lot seem to just be going through the motion and not putting a shift in. Yeah, that's the biggest problem, isn't it? Absolute biggest problem. Alex says, of course, it was 2 former Bluebirds and 1 former Jack. No confidence. Shambles. Absolute shambles. Poor. Bampy Tony says 2 words. Fucking crap. Matthew Corp says, agree, side. Darlin's our best defender. Deserves a run in the side. He showed what he could do against the Jack. That was him playing. That was after him playing 6 or 7 games for his previous team. And this is the thing, mate. Like, he came into that Swansea game. All right, he hadn't played with us, but he was match fit. And then he's come back from injury and he didn't play for a couple of games. Then he played, then he was out, then he was back in, played for a couple of games, has 1 bad game, and he's out again. Like, he's in a new country, a new league. The Championship is a very difficult league anyway. But he's also got the exact skill set that you need for this system. And that does make you wonder. Like, that's where I think you can question kind of Omar Rhys's experience as a manager, because for this system to be fully functional and versatile, you need certain skill sets in certain areas. And Darlin being able to play through the lines and bring the ball into midfield and being quite aggressive and mobile enough to get down into the corners and the flanks when the wing backs are slightly further up is the exact skill set you need. And I would argue that he does all those things I just mentioned better than Callum Chambers. Not to say Callum Chambers is useless or anything like that, but he's very, very hit and miss. And I don't think he's been able to be consistent for us. Matthew says we need leaders, too many soft touches. Alex says all with their heads down, accepting the fact that all of them are shit. Everyone involved with the club can fuck off. Yeah, I understand the frustration, mate. Like, I text Matthew last night, just before he went live with Rhys for the post-match show, and I said, I'm really glad I don't do the post-match shows, because it was just fuming. I was so emotional and just so angry. And like, I still am, like, to a certain degree. I'm just fed up, but at least having given it 24 hours, I can be a bit more measured with some of the stuff I say, because, you know, I've got to be professional at the end of the day. John Watkins said, would Premier League sides want to lend young players to fight in relegation? How many decent players will be available free? I don't see improvement coming in January. So it's funny you should say that, mate. It depends on the players and the clubs, but ultimately, I think most young players coming down from the Premier League, teams just want them to play week in, week out to get the experience. But also, being in a relegation battle can be really good for those young players' developments, because you're playing, like, there's stakes. So that's good for young players. However, I did speak to one person yesterday who said the transfer targets are looking rough. So don't know what that means, but I haven't got no more details. I'll try and find out some more stuff. But that's alarm bells for me, at least. Vincent said Tan needs to dig deep in January because alarm bells are ringing. I mean, he spent 2 million last January on Turnbull. So I think, say what you will about him, and I would love to say plenty, like, he is willing to spend money on players even now. but doesn't seem to want to spend it on managers and coaches and stuff. Doesn't want to spend it on a football structure. And I get it. Like, he's had his fingers burnt. But fucking hell, like, we are going to go down without a fight if he doesn't do something. Like, something. Whether it's players, whether it's... Like, I don't know how much of a rebuild you can do in a January window where you get like a few out and a few in. Like, I'm not sure how possible that is, because January deals are notoriously difficult to get over the line, and we need quality, and more than quality, we need the right personalities to keep us up. Like, he's got to do something, and if he's not, I don't know what he's going to do with the manager situation. Like, I did say the other day that I felt if we lost to Oxford and then we lost to Watford, that I think he may change the manager. But like, what do you do? Do you give? What would you do? What would you guys do? Would you give Omar Rhys experienced coaches now to help him, like really experienced, good coaches to help him? Like, give him a few, but keep him in charge ultimately. Or would you bring someone in and say to Omar Rhys, right, you can either be assistant manager or first team coach to this guy, or you can leave and we're bringing in this guy, and then try and get in the players you need in January. Like, I don't know, because like, it's the 27th of December. You bring in a new manager, he's not going to be familiar with the squad, who's going to work in the way he wants to play, and who's good enough, who's not, who's got a bad attitude, who's not. Too many of these players seem like they need babysitters, just to get them to do the basics. Matthew says we need a proper manager and give these players a kick up the arse. Evans started 11 for Watford would be a 4-3-3. He'd gone with Louis Giles and Pacquiao at fullback, with Bagan and Fish as centre back, and Rina Mota and Robertson in the centre midfield. Colwell just behind, with Ashford, Ola, if Willock isn't fit, and Callum O'Dowda. Mate, wow, what a team that is. And you've caught me off guard there, mate, a bit, because really, like, the only ones which you've gone with the real experience is Rina Mota, Callum O'Dowda, Alnwick, even Bagan's young. Fish has played like one game for us. But it's difficult to argue bringing any of the other players back in instead of those young players. I think as much as Louis Giles is rated, I actually think Louis Giles might end up going out on loan. Tom Davis is a really good fullback, really good defender, and he's been on the bench the last couple of games, which indicates to me that they probably see him in front of Louis Giles. One of the reasons why I like Louis Giles and would give him a chance, particularly in this system, is he gets forward, he overlaps, and his delivery is excellent. So he actually puts balls in the box. So maybe Tom Davis is a bit better defensively, but Louis Giles is decent defensively, and I think going forward, maybe that delivery of crosses might be the thing which sort of nudges for me. But you've got Ola's on fire in the development teams. You've got Reindorf, obviously. You've got Manny Barton. All these guys are in good form. There's more as well, but I'm just saying, Pacquiao, you've got Giles, you've got Tom Davis, you've got Dylan Lawler, who's, I think he's 18, 19, but he's captain of the under-23. He's playing centre-back. Get him in there. Fucking hell. At least they'll give something. Let's have a look. We've got a few people giving their 11, so I'll have a look at them now. Matthew says, we need a proper manager in ASAP just to give these players a couple of home truths and kick up the backside. Jonathan's team would be Pacquiao, Darlan, Fish, Davis, Robertson, Rinamoto, Ashford, Willock, O'Dowda. Yeah, mate. I like that defence. I'm not convinced by Willock. I've been a bit disappointed with him. I know he's been a lot better, but it just disappoints me, man. Right? Like, honestly, these players, like I just said a minute ago, they get paid. A lot of them get paid more than most fans get paid in a year, and they get it in a week. And I know that seems like it's not an exaggeration. We're in a cost of living crisis, and you've got, what was it, over 1,000 fans going on Boxing Day to Oxford, and like O'Dowda and a couple of others can come and give him a clap and apologise. It's like, I feel like some of these players think they're doing fans a favour. Like, the fans pay the wages of the players. Like, make no mistake, the players come and go, managers come and go, coaches come and go, owners come and go. I put a post up the other week saying, you may own the club, but it doesn't belong to you. I 100% stand by that, because all these people will come and go. But whether it's Cardiff City or it ends up being AFC Cardiff because they've run it into the ground, the fans will be there trying to bring the club back from the ashes. But these lot will not. And I'm kind of fed up of it. Mark says, Evan, I back that team totally. And I also would get the bench of under 21s as well. Jamie, mate, says 1,000+ fans making a trip to Watford. Let's hope the team put a shift in as a minimal. Unfortunately, Watford have a cracking home record, so it won't be easy by any stretch. But mate, like I said the other day, or like I said earlier, sorry, if we go wherever, like home and away, all the fans want, give 100%. And if you get beaten by the better team, fine. That's all the fans ask. Give 100%. Have a bit of professional pride and play for the badge. And then, you know, if you get beaten by the better team, you get beaten by the better team. But I can't be having people shitting out challenges and whatnot, because that's just disgraceful. Fact Steve says Joel Colwell scored twice again yesterday. We should get him back. He's got legs. He's box to box. Do you know, mate? Obviously, we spoke to a Cheltenham fan the other week, and they were saying, like, please don't take him back because he's excellent. Do you know what? The more I see of him, I've watched some highlights of him yesterday. The more I see of him, I'm like, and the more I see us, I think, do you know what? Him alongside Robertson, with Ruben in front, Ashford out wide, Ashford, Pacquiao, like some of these guys who at least will just give a bit of fire and verve and move the ball quick, play with a bit of belief and play for the badge. I'm kind of like, yeah, maybe bring him back, which I was against a month, 6 weeks ago. I kind of said, like, no, let's leave him there. But like, the first team or the established or the experienced players aren't doing it. And it's not that they're not doing it from a quality point of view. They're not doing it from an effort, determination, and attitude point of view. Like, think about it, right? Us as Cardiff fans, 100-odd people watching now and me, we are saying we are banging a relegation battle. We said before the festive period, we cannot go through the festive period without picking up any points. And we are saying that we will be better off playing the majority of our 23s or 21s than we will the first team players, because their attitude has been stinking up the joint. Like, take a step back and think about that. And it is absolutely outrageous. Outrageous. Alex says, I'm being a mascot on New Year's Day. Mate, enjoy that. Have a good time. Mark Brown says, if he puts that rubbish out on Sunday, I will not be there New Year's Day. He's got to change it, mate. Got to change it. Jonathan says, Josh Bowler's available. And even he put more effort in than half of these, and that's saying something. Yeah, Jesus Christ, can you imagine? Les Caswell says he won't change the manager. We hired him with no wins in 5. Oh, I think he'll have to. He will. This is the only reason I think he will change it if we lose. If we don't win a game between now and like New Year and we go the whole of the festive period, Vincent Tan cannot afford for us to go down. And from his point of view, the one sort of good thing, I guess, is that if he was to sack Omar Rhys, he hasn't got to pay him off any more than what he would have had to pay him off if he brought in a new manager and a new coaching team anyway, because he had a contract till the summer anyway. So I don't necessarily think he won't go back on that decision. I also, as I said the other day, think the only reason they appointed him when they did is because of the Fab letter, because otherwise they would have done it when he was on the good run and they had made the decision to appoint him with coaches and then went back on their own decision because they weren't convinced by him for whatever reason. And, you know, maybe with hindsight, their sort of worries about him being the guy, they may have been founded, but they should have got someone who was capable of doing it then when they had those worries, not left it hanging for another few games. And then the fans put a letter out with frustrations and then they kind of just appoint him. It's like almost like, yeah, shut up. We don't need to hear from you. That's their attitude to the fans. Like, and that's from the top of the club to the players, bar a few. Because as I said at the start of the show, there is a handful of players in that dressing room who are doing everything they can to bring everyone together, to get their standards where they should be. And they are trying everything. And those players deserve credit. And at the end of the season, I will give those players credit. The reason I won't name them now is because I want Cardiff City to be better. And me kind of naming the players who are actually trying to do the right things and trying to bring everyone together is not going to help that. And ultimately, I want Cardiff to do well. I don't want to make things worse. So I will generalize and say what I think, which is what I've done for the last 47 minutes. Let's have a look. Paul, who's a member, says, Si, would we struggle to get in a proper name manager now? Are we close to FFP rule breaks if we do? Probably not, simply because Omar Rhys financially didn't make any sort of dent in the budget because he was already here for a year anyway, or he already had a year contract. And I believe that it's not a great deal of difference if he's added a new contract till the summer. There's not a financial amount of difference particularly. And I definitely think there would be managers who would be up for it. Like there's managers who specialize in relegation battles. There's the old school managers who specialize in like motivation and bringing teams together and stuff like that. So there's always people who will be up for it. Who would you like? Like, so say budget was not a thing. What manager do you think can save Cardiff, bearing in mind that we're going to have limited ins and outs in January? So with this squad, maybe plus one or two, what manager do you think can save us? Which manager do you think, if you're saying Omar Rhys is not up to it, which manager do you think is up to it? I'm genuinely interested because I've seen people say all sorts of names, you know, from good young managers to more experienced motivators to former managers. Like there's been lots of suggestions. So you give me your suggestions in the chat. Like I'm genuinely interested. Big shout out to all the members who've joined over the last couple of weeks on Patreon and through the YouTube channel. We really appreciate the support. It's massive for us. Like the members and patrons, they're the ones who financially keep the lights on. So yeah, genuinely appreciate it. If you want to support what we do, 7 days a week of Cardiff City content, among other things, then join on patreon.com/ACEpodcastnation, which is better for us, but you could also join through the YouTube on Cardiff City World as well. You get exclusive content. We got a few, going to do some retro watch-alongs now, as soon as the New Year's out of the way. I might do one at the start next week, but yeah, we have an exclusive member show each week, and they get early access to the videos and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of stuff. And of course, when we do the live events, of which we have lots this year, with ex-players, and there's also a couple of non-Cardiff related ones as well. You get 24 hours early access to those tickets. So like, for instance, the Joe Ledley one, the Craig Bellamy one that I did, they sold out like so quickly. So that 24 hours early access is really worth it. And we should be announcing one early January as well, like the first one of the year. Actually, it might be the second one of the year, depending on how things work out. But my point being, to guarantee tickets, be a member. And also, like, ultimately, the club have done such a piss poor attempt at celebrating 125 years. We just decided we're going to do it ourselves. So we're going to put some videos together. We're going to do some live events, and we're going to celebrate the club's 125-year history, because I think it's embarrassing what the club has done so far. But that's just me. Maybe people disagree. Maybe other people think they've done a good job. But just it's all opinions, isn't it? It's all subjective. Mark says we need a tough firefighter manager with no connections to this lot. That I kind of agree with. We need players with guts, determination, and the will to win. Otherwise, I think it's all over. We're down because the players we have now are not up for the fight. Yeah, it's difficult to see these players at the moment battling to keep us up. But they can't even battle for the ball, let alone 3 points, let alone a relegation fight. So it's worrying. That's why I said in January, of course, we need some pace in the final third. We need a striker. But I actually think now we need a central midfielder, and a central midfielder, a striker, and a pacey sort of forward or winger. But they've all got to have, particularly the striker and the centre midfielder. They need to have the right mentality. Like they have to be the type of players who are leaders, who don't accept a drop in standards, because for whatever reason, the kind of guys in that dressing room who are trying to hold it together and do the right things, the other people within that group are not doing it. So if we can get some players in, maybe we don't need to play those players. Maybe we can move a couple out, etc. Can anyone confirm to me if Reindorf is injured, or has he been dropped from the squad, or has he been put back in a 23, 21s? Let's have a look what we got. Les says, no decent manager would come, even if we did try and get one. It's so pathetic. Not sure if I agree with that no manager would come, but I take what you're saying. It is piss poor, mate. It's dreadful. Jonathan says, who would Giles cross to? Colwell drifts to the right, and the others don't get in the box either. Yeah, you got to get bodies in the box, mate, to score goals, haven't you? Alex says, if we don't open the top bit on the Ninian, just get rid of it. Well, unfortunately, mate, the fans are not there, are they? Like the need for it is not there at the moment, because people are so disillusioned that the crowds are as low as they've been in a long time. Jonathan says Joel's better than Ruben right now. Ruben has been dreadful since Tanner got injured. But then, like, I don't disagree that he's had a dip, but it's like, who's he supposed to pass to? Like, really, like, who's he supposed to pass to? Once Ashford came on, and Capaccio came on, and incidentally, when Capaccio came on in the game before that, all of a sudden Ruben's able to find people in difficult attacking positions because he's got runners and he's got width. That's why he's missed Tanner. Like, it baffles me. Alex said, I'd rather Bryn from Gavin and Stacey up front. Fact Steve says Joel Colwell, 28 appearances, 8 goals for Cheltenham this season. That's the kind of statistics we need from a midfielder. Yeah, I think he'd be a great fit with Robertson, but I was kind of thinking that from next year, but just don't know. Personally, Jonathan says, I feel we're at shit creek without a paddle. The board said we can't have a director of football because we've breached FFP, and the manager and coaches screamed lack of funds as well. So we really are screwed. There is loans you can get. Who would improve this team. But ultimately, mate, Omar Rhys at the moment, he has to have the balls to play the young players now. So we can all see with our own eyes that some of this squad is not putting it in, and they got bad attitude, and they got, etc., etc. And some of us, like people, we're all hearing these different stories and stuff about the attitude of certain people. So don't play them. Get the youngsters in. Like, it's gonna. Don't get me wrong, it's a big decision for him, but I just think the fans will accept if he fields the young players with 1 or 2 experienced players and they give 100% and we lose, the fans will accept that more than they will accept these perceived first team players with a lack of effort, lack of respect for the badge and the fans and the football club who pay their wages, phoning it in, because that's what they are doing, phoning it in, the majority of them. Mark says, I shouted from the Ninian to Rhys to get Chambers off. He's terrible. I don't understand why Darland got dropped after 1 bad game, but Chambers has had a few bad games and still seems to play. Because I think Chambers does what Darland is capable of doing what Chambers does, but just better. And he's all round a bit more mobile, etc. Paul Morgan says Tony Mowbray. Yeah, he was the guy I said we should have tried to get as manager, but obviously his health wasn't the best. Although I did read something recently that he might be in there, looking to get back into football. I don't know how true that is. The last I had heard is that he had been diagnosed with cancer and was not very well. But I don't pretend to have any sort of massive contact with Tony Mowbray, but I would love to get him in. I think he'd be a great appointment, but I don't know what the situation is with him. Ben Cattrall says Neil Harris. Not so sure about that one, mate. I was not a fan of him, but I accept that some people liked him. Lewis says Neil Warnock. It's a shout. I just don't think he would. I think I don't know, but I'm under the impression that he fell out with Tan. I don't know how true that is, and I don't know if it's definite if that's what happened. I just, in the back of my head, I seem to remember that there was a bit of a falling out when he sort of left and stuff. So I don't know whether that would even be possible. Jonathan says there's only one answer for me: no budget, and the team need to kick up the arse as bad as they do. We need Neil Warnock. It's difficult to disagree with that at the moment. He's not a long-term solution, but maybe, just maybe. Les says Mowbray, Schumacher, Robbins. What happened though? They wouldn't even bother to approach a half-decent experienced manager. Oh, mate, right? You're preaching to the converted. Steven Schumacher had at least 2 interviews with Cardiff City and impressed in the first one. And then we didn't go with him. Explain that to me. Gutless. Paul says Warnock, Sam Allardyce. Yeah, I've seen a few people saying about Sam Allardyce. I don't think Sam Allardyce would work under the Vincent Han regime, to be honest with you. I saw someone on Twitter saying David Moyes. I don't know. I don't know if these players have got it in them. I just don't know if some of them have got it in them to even respect someone who's had the success that David Moyes has had at different places. I think some of them are so far stuck up their own arse that they wouldn't even respect him. We need number 1 fighter, says Jonathan. Les says Rowett would have been a good shout. Yeah, he openly said he wanted the job as well, didn't he? When he was on Sky Sports News. Paul says, how many January signings will we make, Si? Rhys says 2 or 3 at a push. Yeah, 2 or 3, mate, I think is probably about it. Whether we get the right people is the worry. Reindorf's got an ankle injury, a couple of you saying. Turned his ankle. Hopefully he'll be back soon. Yeah, but I just think that in order to get the best out of certain players, you need to have certain players around them. So, I think Robertson has shown glimpses of what he's capable of, but I think we would see a 10 times better version of Robertson if we had a genuine aggressive box-to-box midfielder next to him, someone with a lot of Siopas's qualities off the ball, but better on the ball and a bit more intelligent football-wise. And I think you'd see a better version of Alex Robertson. And the same with Ruben. I accept he hasn't been as good recently, but I just think if he had some pace either side of him and a striker who's decent running in behind and creating space and getting into space, I think you see a better version of Ruben. Hence why when Callum Robertson was doing well at the start of the season and at the start of Rhys's run, you saw a better version of Ruben Colwell and he was getting that consistency. But, you know, and obviously Tanner's a part of that because he created the width, the pace, and he stretched the pitch, created space for him to drift into, created space for him to put the ball into, for Tanner to run into. It all has an impact, you know. Need an experienced manager, Matthew says. Need an experienced manager to try and get us out of this mess. Mowbray would be the standout for me. Yeah, like, he'd be the guy, wouldn't he? Like, if you could get Tony Mowbray, the thing I like about Tony Mowbray as well is he could be a long-term appointment as well, rather than like a short-term solution, like, I don't know, like a Sam Allardyce or someone in that ilk. It's kind of like, or even with Warnock, like, you're giving it to them to the end of the season just to keep us up at any cost. Whereas at least with Mowbray, it can be a long-term appointment as well as that. But to be honest with you, we just need someone. We just need to find a way to stand up. But then, so Jeff, you said you see a better version of Ruben if he was on the bench. But all the other number 10s are just as bad, if not worse, because they don't put the work in for me. So, like, it's one of them. Paul says the reason the club won't appoint a director of football is because Darman and Cho don't want to relinquish their puppet master status. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's partially right, but like if you go back to one of the, I forget which one it was, one of the interviews which I did with Mehmet Dalman, he kind of quite openly said that he had recommended to Vincent Tan that they should appoint a director of football or someone running the football side of things. And like, Vincent Tan makes the decisions. He doesn't want a director of football. But I also think there's probably an element of that, mate, as well. Like, they like that they got a nice cushy job. They only turn up when they want. It is what it is, isn't it? Like, we've talked here to death regarding that. Like, to not have a football structure, like a director of football operations who runs the day-to-day football side of things, to not have a director of football or a technical director who's implementing a vision for the football side and getting like profiles on future players and players that are at the club, and kind of nothing. Like, who's making the decision on these contracts of the 13 players? Like, regardless of whether we think any of them deserve a contract, who's making that decision? Is it the interim manager? Probably not. Is it the businessman? Well, what do they know about football? I think that's been shown time and time again. So who's making that decision? And a few people saying Steve Cooper. I did speculate the other day that if, like, the more sort of negative it gets now, and this protest is getting sort of more and more, whether Vincent Tan would try and work something out with Steve Cooper for that Swansea game to try and take the sting out of it. But I think there's a couple of elements which kind of make it unrealistic. He's still under like a Premier League contract, so he's probably got a big sort of gardening leave or whatever. He's being paid by them. And also, would he be willing to come without Alan Tate? Because ultimately, that's what, if you could get past the money and come to some sort of agreement, you've still got the Alan Tate element of it. So I wouldn't mind it, but I think it's unlikely. Tony Mowbray still would be my preferred option. But then Jonathan makes a very good point. He says Tony Mowbray couldn't turn Birmingham around after Rooney destroyed them, and our players' mentality is worse. But do you know what he does well, Mowbray, is coaching and bringing young players into the first team. And, you know, we keep getting told how talented our young players are. We will never know if they never play. And at this point, I think it's time to play them. Guys, really appreciate you all joining me for this chat this evening. It's been good. It's allowed me to vent a little bit. I've tried to be honest, as always. I've tried to be realistic. I've tried to be careful with my wording of certain things because I don't want to, cause any problem for people. But ultimately, everyone at Cardiff City Football Club needs to have a long, hard look in the mirror because they're letting the fans down, they're letting themselves down, and they're letting the football club down. Regardless of whether they will be there next year, it's time for them to show a bit of fight, have a bit of professional pride, and give a bit back to the people who turn up week in, week out and support you up and down the country, who don't earn half as much as what you do in a week. Appreciate you all. I'll be back tomorrow with a preview of the Watford game. Please do join either as a patron or a member. I really can't say how much that helps us out a lot. Obviously, creating and providing content 7 days a week is it's massive. It's a big undertaking. It's a lot of time and effort for myself, but also for the boys and girls who help me. So yeah, become a member, join, all that good stuff. Take it easy, my friends, and if nothing else, just keep the faith.